Good evening, everybody. It's really great to have you all with me today this evening. And it's a great privilege for me. I'm Commander Guru Prasad to conduct this webinar on leadership and relevance of spiritual insights. Let me begin by extending you the traditional Indian greeting, Namaste, which means Namaha Te. I bow to the Supreme Universal Spirit in you all. So right at the outset, the Indian spirituality says that all of us are equal and identical in spirit. So I bow to that universal spirit pervading all of us. So with this humble, at the same time ambitious identity and greeting, let me begin. Yeah. The topic for today is relevance of spirituality in leadership. Normally, leadership and spirituality are in different domains, and people perceive it as unconnected. While spirituality is a word which is closely associated with religion, mysticism, and many other such terms, leadership sits comfortably in the corporate domain along with teamwork, motivation, and such others. Is there a connect? Well, that's what we are going to see. And I believe it is very important for us to see this connect today more than ever. India, which was once a spiritual giant, is now heading headlong into the material world of prosperity. And if we don't make this connection between our mystic spiritual traditions and the modern pursuit of material wealth, we will just be another third world country which has developed haphazardly. But if we are able to make this connect, then I think we shall create an India of our dreams, because it is this leadership which is going to make that difference. On your screens now, you can see a viewpoint which is called the Ops Vijay viewpoint. In the background are Tololing, Tiger Hill, and other peaks which were occupied by the Pakistani army in 1999. Yes, it is the holy battleground of Kargil, where one of the fiercest battles raged. In the background, you see these high peaks, and here are the men who are praying just before they set out to reclaim the Tololing top, which was one of the peaks. These officers and Jawans from the 2nd Rajputana Rifles are praying to whatever they believed in, and they are ready to go and shake hands with death for your and my sake. The tension is palpable. These men marched to the spray of bullets and worse from the enemies perched atop the mountain peaks. Because of the height advantage, the enemy could destroy quite a lot of our forces. But undeterred, these people went and achieved the objective. But how? How did they do it? What motivation these people carried in their hearts? What was the moving force? These were few of the heroes. Major Padmapani Acharya laid down his life while capturing the Knoll mountain. He was awarded the Mahavir Chakra posthumously. Captain Vikram Batra was awarded Paramveer Chakra. Captain Vijayant Thapar, Veer Chakra, was awarded Veer Chakra. Now this is the difference. This selfless sacrifice of the leaders who led their men with no concern for their own safety and security. The selfless sacrifice is the foundation stone of leadership. Here is the Defense Minister of the day, Mr. George Fernandes, receiving Captain Vijayant Thapar's body, who was all of 22 years old. And this is a very poignant picture. This is a war memorial created in one of the cantonments in Kashmir, where you see so many black stones etched with the people who made the supreme sacrifice. It is very clear, let me tell you today, that armed forces have realized all over the world where missions have to be executed while facing death. It is leadership which makes the most crucial difference between victory and defeat. The young officers and JCOs and leaders at every level set personal examples while leading men into battle. And that's what makes the crucial difference, as General Chibber has brought it out in his many books. In the corporate too, targets have to be met by leaders through motivating teams to perform at peak efficiency while traversing turbulent techno-commercial landscapes. You see Sundar Pichai of Google, Indra Nooyi of Pepsi, Satya Nadella of Microsoft, all leading highly skilled technocrats to achieve outstanding results. And it is leadership again which make these people lead their team to achieve high motivation and outstanding results. Leadership, such leadership, has to be grounded in sustainable spiritual truths which have withstood the test of time. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na klediyantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. Weapons cleave it not, fire burns it not. Fire burns it not, and the wind dries it not. The self is eternal, indestructible, and incomprehensible. Therefore, Krishna said, fight, O Bharata. This kind of spiritual insight is what can create the courage, the physical courage, unbelievable heroism, and undying spirit in people. There is a connect. There is a connect between outstanding leadership and spiritual insights which have stood the test of time and which have sustained our civilization over many a millennia. Let me take you through this topic, an extremely interesting and crucial one today, through these heads. We have already passed through some of the introduction. I will cover what is leadership so that we are all grounded in the same reality. And then I will share some latest thoughts on leadership as well as ancient insights from our own spiritual heritage. And then we will conclude with a quick question and answer session. I hope you will enjoy this rollicking journey through ideas and practical everyday reality. Leadership is a very widely used term and often misunderstood. Put quite simply, leader is simply one who has followers. This was said by Peter Drucker, considered widely as the father of modern management. Drucker has another gem in that picture there. Management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. He has straight away put the onus on identifying the big things that have to be done, the higher order capability of goal setting. All of us are leaders at some level or the other. And whatever a great man does, the other men also do. Whatever he sets up as the standard, that the world follows. Lord Shri Krishna said this almost 4,000 years ago, before Mr. Drucker spoke. This is our heritage. I would like to share with all of you that we have all the wisdom and all the heritage, all the insights in our spiritual heritage. Let me try and take you with a slide, with a video. I'm not sure whether video will come very clearly, but let me try.
होगा पाठ, उसी के द्वारा तुम्हें सिद्धि प्राप्त होगी। व्यक्तिगत लाभ से तो पाप की गली निकलती है, क्योंकि वो तो स्वार्थ सिद्धि के लिए व्यक्ति को भटका देता है। और हे पार्थ, ये भी न भूलो कि तुम एक महान पुरुष हो और लोग तुम्हें दृष्टांत मानकर तुम्हारे पीछे पीछे काम और स्वार्थ के मार्ग पर चल पड़ेंगे, क्योंकि एक श्रेष्ठ व्यक्ति का आचरण तो दूसरों के लिए दृष्टांत बन ही जाता है। मुझे को लो। न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यम त्रिषु लोकेषु किंचन नानवाप्तम अवाप्तव्यम वर्त एव च कर्मणि। त्रिलोक में मेरे लिए कुछ करना आवश्यक नहीं पार्थ, और त्रिलोक में ऐसा भी कुछ नहीं जिसे मैं प्राप्त करना चाहूं और प्राप्त ना कर सकूं। फिर भी मैं तुम्हारे सामने कर्म कर रहा हूं पार्थ, कर्म कर रहा हूं। ये दिखला रहा हूं, ये सिद्ध कर रहा हूं कि निष्काम कर्म के मार्ग पर चलते हुए जीवन व्यतीत करना संभव है। हे सर,
Hello. Yeah. So I hope the video was clear and you could hear the audio as well. These words were Lord Krishna advised Arjuna to work in a spirit of sacrifice was spoken 4,000 years ago. And he clearly said, whatever a great man does, the rest of the world follows. So we are all leaders and there is responsibility on us. Now, another popular debate on leadership is basically whether a leader is born or whether he can be created. I think the leaders can be created because, as Field Marshal Manekshaw has said, there are too few leaders who are born anyway. So we need to create, and then only the world can be led through its difficulties. Getting further into the details, leadership can be explained as the ability to influence people in a group to work cohesively to achieve group goals. The keywords here are, one is influence. You need to influence. You need to have the ability to influence people in a group. And that comes through many tools. Mostly communication is key. The second keyword is group goals. As a leader, you need to set goals for the group to achieve and worthy goals. And thirdly, cohesively, work cohesively, which implies teamwork in a disciplined fashion. So leadership consists of all these aspects, and each of those aspects are very involved and can consist of many more details. Over the next half an hour or so, I will take you through many leadership thoughts and theories and how they closely connect with the spiritual insights that we have. There is trait principle concept, functional approach, then Bernard Bass' study of leadership styles. Mr. Stephen Covey has come out with this principle-centered leadership. Then there is servant leadership, situational leadership by Mr. Ken Blanchard. And then there are insights from spiritual heritage, which are culled from works like Mahabharata, Valmiki Ramayana, Arthashastra, Viduraniti, Shukraniti, and the Bhagavad Gita. I was fortunate to study these texts in order to prepare for my postgraduate dissertation at the Defense Services Staff College. And I carried out a detailed study and evolved a model of spiritual leadership, which I shall be discussing during the talk today. The model is now flashed on your slide. It has three components. What a leader has to be is here. What he sees in the world, the external stimuli from the world is coming and hitting him. The reality hits all of us. But how many of us see it in the correct perspective? Living in the present, not lost to future and past. And then what do we do? And how do we do to ensure dynamic actions are correctly issued from an integrated personality without the trace of ego? This is the spiritual model. We shall see how each of these connect to leadership thought from around the world. The spirit of service, the very foundation, as we saw, of a leader or a leader's character is the spirit of service. The eternal duty of a king is the happiness of his subjects, observance of truth and sincerity of behavior. Bhishma said, the grandsire of the Kuru clan. He advised Yudhishthira in Mahabharata thus: happiness of his subjects. Please note, in that respect, Bhutan today is pursuing gross national happiness and not gross domestic happiness. If we only take this spiritual heritage seriously, our policies can change for the better. Only when our individual selfish desires are sublimated, the higher leadership capability will start issuing forth from our personality. Now, here is a connect. Robert Greenleaf, who coined servant leadership, he said, servant leadership begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Then he makes the conscious choice to aspire to lead. How great men think alike. In servant leadership, the leader, Greenleaf said, must focus on the learning needs of all the employees, and that is how he shall achieve. The second foundation stone of leadership is walking the talk, integrity. Vidura, who was a wise minister in Dhritarashtra's court, he defined a learned king as one whose actions are in perfect harmony with his wisdom. Shri Rama himself declared that the truth is the very foundation of all values. Today, haven't we seen how Ramalinga Raju, who was running one of the biggest IT companies, Satyam, how he fell from grace because he lacked integrity? How many of our politicians today, how many of our leaders have this foundation value of leadership? If we ask this question, it becomes very clear to us why our country is in the state that it is. Another key goal or key function of a leader is to pursue a lofty and noble goal. This can also be called as an overriding vision, which brings constancy of purpose to the efforts of people under the leader. Shukracharya said, if the king is not a perfect guide, his subjects will head into trouble, as a boat without a helmsman sinks into the sea. All of us who have traveled in boats, we know that the helmsman has to steer a steady course towards the destination. Otherwise, the boat is headed into trouble. One of the flaws in a leader is taking too many challenges simultaneously, which means he lacks direction. Shri Rama said. We all know how Mahatma Gandhi motivated all of us with this idea of free India, where all religions can be practiced without fear or favor. And this power, even now, is alive when we all saw how Anna Hazare invoked this vision again, and so many people braved Delhi's winters to spend nights on the roads. And haven't we seen how Narendra Modi, today's Prime Minister, has invoked the vision of a clean India, a vision of India where we make all goods. Another important part for a leader is that he must possess a wide array of interests, aptitudes, and passions. Sam Manekshaw, Field Marshal Manekshaw said that you must relate to as many people as possible, and that is possible only when you share interests with them. So a leader has to be a multifaceted all-rounder. Don't we know how Lord Shri Krishna was a man of many facets? The Bhagavad Gita also advocated harmony between head and heart. The balance and harmony is extremely important. Bhagavad Gita said, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti, Dhruvan Iti, Matir Mama. It is a balance between Krishna, who is the self within all of us, and Arjuna, carrying the bow, who acts out of courage in the physical world and through his intellectual faculties, fully balanced with the heart. And when both of them are balanced, you can achieve anything that you want. Another key quality or characteristic of a leader is that he has to be dexterous and diplomatic. He should show tact, capability to use deception, diplomacy, coercion, and secrecy. Bhishma has advised that for success, all these are essential. To quote a popular example, don't we know how our present Prime Minister, he employed his tact to the fullest and tried to solve the Kashmir issue by making all efforts. He even went to the extent of visiting Pakistan Prime Minister's residence without invitation. And today, after all these efforts have failed, the world has seen that Pakistan is not serious in its interest to solve the dispute. And today, the whole world is with India, and we have taken advantage by taking effective action against cross-border terrorism. If this is not tact, what else is? Now we come to the trait principle theory of leadership. This is what is taught in all basic military academies. It has a long list of characteristics of a leader, and these were all derived through research. After World War II, many of the military leaders were studied, their autobiographies were studied, their characteristics were studied, tabulated, and many of these characteristics were shared by many of them. Now you see the list, it has many of the same characteristics that we all discussed and were mentioned in our spiritual books. This is also called the great man theory and is one of the oldest leadership theories widely held in high esteem. Now let me come to another characteristic of a great leader which is listed in our spiritual heritage, but which does not merit an important place in the Western discourse. Self-control. All the scriptures are unanimous in declaring that a leader must first attain total control over his own passions before he can aspire to control others. The greatest of a leader's functions is considered to be ruling himself, said Shukraniti. Like unfavorable winds take away a boat on sail in an undesirable direction, slavery to sense organs robs one of right thinking, says the Gita. How beautifully this has been put. And this self-control can really allow us to harness all our energies and vigor in the right direction of effective action. In the Western theories also, they have mentioned this as energy, enthusiasm, but they have not identified that this energy and enthusiasm is actually related to our own mind. Let us now come to another important theory called principle-centered leadership. This was advocated by Mr. Stephen Covey, an original thinker of the 20th century. This theory focuses on principles which are like compasses, inner compasses pointing the way. In a sense, this is the beginning of acknowledgement of relevance of spiritual insights by the Western world, because principles are sustainable truths, spiritual truths. So they are also coming around to our view. Now let me share an important a small story here. Whenever we visit big airports and railway stations, etc., we see a map with a pointer saying you are here. In a lighter vein, I believe somebody who was standing in front of a map like this, he asked, how do they know? Well, the person who was watching the map was standing at the very spot which was already marked in the map. Similarly, when we read many of the scriptures and spiritual texts, many times we feel, how did he know? We feel many times that what is written there is they are talking about our own life, our own inner mind. This is the beauty of our spiritual heritage, where our inner mind, inner thoughts have all been mapped, and they exactly know how our mind works. This is another theory called Bernard Bass study on leadership, which basically distinguishes two types of leadership styles: transactional leadership and transformational leadership. I think the comparison between our former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and the present one is very apt in this context. Transactional leadership consists of reward and punishment, ineffective communication, and it is often seen in a hierarchy-driven organization. Transformational leadership, on the other hand, consists of leader with the capability to bring out his vision in a charismatic manner, and he provides a role model to the men under him, and he is an extremely effective communicator. Let us now see a video which illustrates these characteristics.
कब मेक इन इंडिया, आइए हिंदुस्तान में निर्माण, दुनिया के किसी भी देश में जाकर के बेचिए, लेकिन निर्माण यहाँ कीजिए, मैन्युफैक्चर यहाँ कीजिए। हमारे पास स्किल है, टैलेंट है, डिसिप्लिन है, कुछ कर गुजरने का इरादा है। हम विश्व को एक सानुकूल अवसर देना चाहते हैं। चाहिए कम मेक इन इंडिया, और हम विश्व को कहें इलेक्ट्रिकल से लेकर के इलेक्ट्रॉनिक तक कम मेक इन इंडिया, केमिकल्स से लेकर के फार्मास्यूटिकल तक कम मेक इन इंडिया, ऑटोमोबाइल से लेकर के एग्रोवेल
I think this was a very nice small video which captures what a transformational leader does. He communicates with panache. He communicates through his body language. He presents a role model for people to emulate, get inspired. These are all transformational leaderships styles. Now coming to the next component, that is to see. This is an extremely important part where the leader has to perceive the reality correctly and accurately, because based on this perception he can decide what he has to do. I would like to take an example here of the popular Indian cricketing captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni. I think his life has recently been picturized in a Bollywood film which has done a very good job of it, I must say. I think Dhoni has achieved whatever he has achieved because of an extremely alert mind which perceives the situation exactly the way it is. Here in this picture, he is hitting that famous six to bring India the World Cup. He is always aware of the situation, is totally current in his appreciation. Bhishma said, this kind of situational awareness comes only when you have the companionship with men of right intelligence, because then you get accurate inputs, because everything the leader himself cannot perceive. He needs inputs from other people. Lord Shri Ram said, you must consult with wise men, and Chanakya beautifully rounded it off. Therefore, sit only with those who are mature in intellect. This is how we build our situational awareness. In the Indian tradition, there is another interesting input where each of the leader had a spiritual acharya, the spiritual master, to correctly guide him as to the nature of reality. We all know how these acharyas, who were undisturbed by the power of money, fame, power of selfish desires, and these acharyas were safely and serenely staying in some forest retreats, unaffected by the worldly material pleasures, worldly material wealth, could guide the king correctly. This is another interesting contribution of the spiritual insight to the aspect of situational awareness. Bhishma advised periodic supervision of subjects as another tool to achieve correct situational awareness. Chanakya concurs. He said, we must constantly conduct inspection because men are inconsistent in their minds. Don't we all know this? In the corporate world today, situational awareness has taken on a whole new meaning, because the latest state of production, the latest state of the manpower situation, the latest status of assets, everything is being captured in cloud-based information systems. Everything is available at the click of a button, at the click on your dashboard, so that the leaders are correctly updated as far as the latest situation is concerned. Now we come to another interesting modern theory called situation leadership, coined by Ken Blanchard. This basically focuses on the truth that leaders have to be flexible in their style. They have to be ready to change their leadership styles based on different kinds of situations. When I say situation, a leader has to deal with different employees who are at different development levels. Let us watch a small video here.
Situational leadership, too, is a modeling process that helps you, as a manager, to be more purposeful and intentional in conversations with your people. Why is that important? Think for a moment about the different leaders you've worked with in your career. Most of us have experienced good leadership and bad leadership at times. What's the difference? People often say their worst leader micromanaged and provided too much direction on tasks when a person was really competent. Other people will say their worst leader was never accessible to them, was rigid, didn't listen. When asked how they reacted, people say they were angry, disappointed, frustrated, sometimes overwhelmed, confused, or resentful. Reactions that get in the way of people performing at a high level. Now think about your best leader, the person you respected and who brought out the best in you. What did he or she do, and how did you react? People say things like, my best leader was accessible. They trusted me. They gave me feedback. They taught me. They were flexible. And how did these people react in response? They reacted by being committed, loyal, optimistic, and they say they felt trusted and empowered. We know from asking these questions to thousands of people that the best leaders are situational leaders. They flexibly match their style to their people's needs for direction and support in that moment for a specific goal or task. And while this approach may seem like common sense, it is far from common practice. Most leaders, 54%, use only one style of leadership with their people, and only 1% of managers before training can use all four of the leadership styles needed to bring out the best in people. The result is a mismatch and lowered performance. To be effective, leaders must learn how to conduct four-style conversations tailored to a direct report's needs on a particular goal or task. That begins by identifying a direct report's competence and level of commitment.
Yeah. Ken Blanchard made this path-breaking discovery along with Dr. Paul Hersey, and he also has written this great book called The 1 Minute Manager, where the basic premise is that leadership style has to be different based on the development need of the employee. So if he is not very well developed, he may need more of directing style, but if he is well developed, then he will require more of supporting. This is an extremely interesting and effective leadership style, leadership tool. Now let me come to some more latest thoughts that find echoes in spirituality. As per the Stanford Graduate School of Business, self-awareness is among the most important part for a leader. This is because only through self-awareness will he come to know what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, how is he able to relate to other people, how is he able to interact in the social circuit. Now, tell me, what better aid or what better tool is there than meditation in the Eastern traditions for a heightened self-awareness? Through meditation on highest truths, we come to sublimate our individual desire-driven self, and we will be able to go to the higher plane of leadership. Emotional maturity also comes through our detachment from our limited self with its own likes and dislikes. And all this, if they are not part of spiritual sadhana in the Indian tradition, what are they? A leader should be able to relate to people and must have a comfort level in a crowd. This is the latest finding. Tell me, a leader who thinks the whole world is his family is actually relating to people. Of course, he will be very comfortable in any kind of crowd, and that is the reason you will find the Sundar Pichais, the Indra Nuis commanding some of the biggest companies in this world. Open mind is advised for a leader. Now, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, the great Sanskrit sentence, what does it say? It says, let us all go from darkness to light. That means we are open, we are willing to welcome any kind of knowledge from anywhere. Big picture with attention to details is advised for a leader. Well, spirituality gives you an inbuilt GPS system for the human evolution. The spiritual model of leadership actually gives us a whole lot of do's and don'ts and the ideal courses of action to follow. Some of these let us briefly touch upon due to paucity of time. A leader needs to be a man of action. Bhishma says leaders must be alert like a deer sleeping in the woods. And readiness for action is at the very root of all kingly duties. Shri Rama has said procrastination is a common ailment with poor leadership. Sweetness and clarity in speech is advised for a leader. It is said that a king of good acts and agreeable speeches has no equal. Vidura beautifully puts it, capable of speaking fluently, pleading and arranging his thoughts systematically on any topic for oration, as these skills bring tremendous influence over men. Please note, influence is at the very heart of leadership. As a leader, you must be able to influence your men into the course of action which is in alignment with company objectives and their own developmental achievement needs. And how is it achieved? This influence is achieved by speaking fluently, pleading and arranging his thoughts systematically on any topic. Another important part of a leader is that he should neither be mild nor be too fierce. He should be like vernal sun, neither too hot nor too cold. Well, this is, I think, one of the most important things for a leader to keep a stable head. He should not lose his cool. He should always be at his coolest self, understanding the reality and guiding his people accordingly. Have we ever seen Mahendra Singh Dhoni getting angry on a cricket field? I'm sure not. Well, that is the right conduct for a leader. We all have heard about Chanakya's famous theory of motivation, Samadhana, Danda, Bheda. Samadhana, Bheda, and then finally Danda, the punishment. As a leader, you must be able to motivate your people, and these are all great inputs for that. And then again, justice. The leader has to ensure justice. Today, all of us know how poorly our judiciary is discharging its duties. When there is no justice being meted out, obviously it will lead to a very weak government. People follow the leader only when leader protects its subordinates and provides them justice, ensures constant punishment to offenders. Obviously, if judiciary is not discharging the function correctly, it is the government which gets weak, because government is the leader in a democracy. Similarly, discipline. Duties of a leader include ensuring discipline so that the group behaves in a disciplined fashion. Otherwise, the group can easily lose its way through confusions and indiscipline. Another latest theory which was coined maybe about 20-30 years ago was functional approach concept. This exactly talks about the situation and the group other than the leader. The leader, it describes, is more or less in tune with the trait principle theory, but relative to group. What is important here is how a leader is assessed by the group. The perspective from the group is important. And again, the group dynamics come into play here, which we just discussed, how they were brought out in the spiritual classics. Then again, the situation, leader has to adapt his style to different situations. So all these are leadership theories which are today widely practiced and held in high esteem by the Western scholars, and they are all there in our own spiritual heritage. In addition, our spiritual heritage has many unique concepts, unique aspects which are more relevant today than ever. Our approach is on a much wider canvas because it is meant for society at large. It is not only meant for companies or militaries. It has a more holistic perspective because it is happiness, welfare oriented for the whole society, not money oriented. It brings out a detailed list of laws and duties. It is very suitable for application because we can all relate to role models like Rama, Krishna, maybe an Akbar, and many other such kings who ruled us. Non-material nature. Happiness is the goal. Underlying spiritual vision of universal equality. I think this alone can make our spiritual insights into the theory of leadership worthy of being practiced worldwide. Of course, importance of management of passions is a very unique input to the theory of leadership which must be recognized by the whole world. Spiritual vision provides a person with a complete understanding of the human nature and helps him to lead men better. This was uttered by General K.S. Jamwal in 2007 when he visited us to deliver his lecture on leadership at the Defense Services Staff College. To conclude, Swami Vivekananda meditated on a rock near the South Indian Cape of Kanyakumari, and in his meditations he saw a glorious future for India as the world leader, and this was on 27th December 1892. And today, are we all not witness to this journey of 120 years where India is making rapid strides towards being one of the world powers? Vivekananda said, "Up India and conquer the world with your spirituality." And I think it is already becoming clear that the chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race. At this supremely dangerous moment in human history, the only way of salvation for mankind is the Indian way. Thus spake Dr. Arnold Toynbee, the famous British historian. Now, we can emerge as a world leader by only adopting our own spiritual heritage, our own insights. And if we do that, there will be many great leaders who will spring from this earth and will cleanse this country of all the filth that have been created, and we shall take our country on the path to becoming a truly great world power. It only remains for me to thank all of you for having listened to my discourse on leadership and how spiritual heritage can help us become better leaders. Thank you. Yeah. Now I think we will open the session for some question and answers.
Ranjan Desai, Mr. Ranjan Desai has raised the hand. Can you see?
1 second? Yeah, 1 second. Let me, yeah, Ranjan Desai. Right, I'll unmute you, Ranjan. I think you can, once I unmute you, I'll be able to hear you. Yeah, I think now you are unmuted. Can you?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was really very good presentation. I really admired how you connected spirituality and leadership. In fact, I had a question because I think you are from the military background too. So right now, the current situation of you are praising Modi about being right and speaking truth and other things and all. And I really appreciate that he's a really good leader. But I'm really confused about one thing here, that OROP, that one rank, one pension thing. Is it really happening the way that he's saying, or is it that something, I mean, I looked up in the internet and it shows that it is not yet completely implemented. What are your thoughts about this, the leadership and the spirituality and the things that are currently happening in India? India is going to be a world leader, sure, and it's making strides. But are we really having a good leader in Mr. Modi?
Thank you, Ranjan, for your question. And I think thanks a lot. You appreciated the way I spoke about leadership. Why? Well, I think your question consists of two parts. One about the OROP, that is the one rank, one pension issue. And the second part about whether we are having the right kind of leadership in Mr. Modi. Well, OROP, I am no expert, right? I think all the facts and issues are in the open domain. One can draw their own judgment. I would not really like to delve into that issue here because it goes outside the purview of leadership. Well, but coming to the second part, I think there is a famous saying that as the situation demands, a leader springs forth, because all of us are impacted by reality, right? All of us are seeing issues, and somewhere somebody feels that the issue needs to be addressed and a leader will emerge. So from that point of view, I think Modi has emerged out of the shadows with his own agenda, which is born out of the issues which the country is currently facing. So from that point of view, I think we have the right leader. Well, when he has given his clear direction, however, on ground implementation, there may be issues which he has to tackle, and that happens everywhere. But I think yes, to give you a short answer, I really feel at this point of time, Mr. Modi may be the right person to lead the country. Thank you. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's a lot of things, and people, building a leadership is like, as you said, there are a lot of things which are in the open domain, and I was really surprised when I started looking into it in detail, and then seeing that so many flaws yet which have not been implemented properly, and there are things that we should not blindly believe a leader. We have to do our own. Kind of thing. And this is just one issue which I'm really
Yeah, yeah.
surprised when I looked up. And then, but there are other issues which he's really leading, and there's, I'm sure leader, it'll take some time for all these things to come out and clear out. But yeah, you're right.
Sure,
And
sure.
yeah, but coming back to your presentation, it was really good. It was very nice, and you connected all the different leadership the theories with our spirituality. It was really amazing, and I really like to have your presentation to look at later on too. I'd really appreciate if you could share it with us later on.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjan. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question? You can also type your question in the chat box. There is a chat tab right at the bottom. So you want to type a question, that is also possible. Otherwise, I can of course unmute you and enable you to ask a question.
Yes, I don't think there is any.
Okay. Yeah, anybody?
I don't think there is a question. Thank you so much, Guru Prasad ji. It was a very, very informative and, full of vigor and energy and the authentic information you gave us. We have to really, if we are a leader, we can implement this very well.
Thank you, Vibaji. It was indeed my privilege. Thank you.
See you soon again, sometimes. We hope
Yeah,
to see
sure.
you. Another good topic.
Yeah, sure. Why
Thank
not?
you very much.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.